Remember when heavy metal ruled our lives? When great albums and great concerts came out every month?
Yeah, the 80s.
Well, it's time to look back at those days, so take out your old vinyl
And cassettes.
put on your denim jacket.
And raise your fist in the air.
It's time for the 80s Metal Hang, a classic heavy metal podcast.
Oh, yeah.
This week we go back to April 1983 as Fastway and Savatage released their debuts. Anvil forges forward, Krokus goes headhunting, and Twisted Sister proves you can't stop rock and roll. All this plus Ozzy and Dave Mustaine on the 80s Metal Hang, a heavy metal history podcast.
So, yep, this is Craig.
And this is Rob.
And this is what happens when you get two guys who met back in 1983 and just kept going and going with rock and roll.
It's what we still reference today, 43 years later. That sounds unbelievable. That's 43 years since April of 1983, but
It shows you really can't stop it.
you cannot stop it, and we can't stop talking about it. So,
Speaking of which,
what can't you stop?
rock and roll.
You can't stop rock and roll, Twisted Sister says. And in April of 1983, they released their second album and their first major label album on Atlantic Records, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll.
And this is a big one for both of us, actually. We have a lot of nostalgia for this one. You know, we learned to play the songs, and in the basement, we played Can't Stop Rock and Roll, and we heard a lot about these guys from our friends' older brothers and sisters. They were kind of local legends. They were infamous, if you want to say, because they were definitely a bad boy image, and they were just everywhere.
They were, just like we spoke about Zebra in a previous episode being so big on Long Island. Twisted Sister was as big, if not bigger, in the entire tri-state area, New York City, New Jersey, Connecticut, upstate New York. They would play 5 nights a week to thousands of people, and that's not an exaggeration.
No, it's not.
And for some reason, though, being this close to New York City and all the record companies, nobody took notice of this band on Long Island drawing thousands and thousands of people, so they couldn't get a record deal. So they had to go over to England and record their first album over there.
And it worked, I guess. I mean, they had a lot of help over there. Like even Lemmy was into them, which is a big deal. And he apparently, what was that documentary where SMF or something like that?
Something like that, like history of Twisted Sister.
He was talking about Lemmy. Like they played some show and they were wearing makeup and people weren't responding well. And Lemmy did something said to the crowd and turned him around.
Yeah, I think it was the Reading Festival, which is a big festival over in England. Lemmy came out and vouched for them.
Which is pretty cool. Have Lemmy vouch for you. I mean, really, come on.
They like to throw stuff over there, so they would probably throw in bottles and worse things on the stage.
Blood pudding?
Yeah, which they're kind of known for, or at least were known for over there. But they found success over there. They recorded this album called Under the Blade over there. That was on an independent label called Secret Records. And they had the help, like you said, of Lemmy and also of Fast Eddie Clark from Motorhead as well, and Pete Way from UFO. And did you like Under the Blade? Did you know of Under the Blade at the time, or?
I think I knew it from you because you had all those records. I was kind of like a noob back then. And it was a cool song. I mean, it was definitely different than a lot of the stuff out there. It was kind of ominous, Under the Blade.
Yeah.
So that's how I heard of it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's me humming the beginning of Under the Blade.
And the only reason I knew of You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, I think you had it too. And you had the WBAB Homegrown album. And this was on the Son of Homegrown.
Right.
So that kind of got me into them also.
Yeah, a local radio station that had these homegrown albums that we also mentioned when we were talking about Zebra. They had a different version, well, not different recorded version of You Can't Stop Rock and Roll on one of them. It was the same song, but it was just sort of like a demo quality version. But this version and this whole Atlantic Records album, I think it still sounds great. You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, the album. I listened to it last week just to, get ready for this episode, and I didn't stop from Kids Are Back to
still ballsy.
The title track, yeah.
I mean, you listen to D singing. He's got a voice. He's shout. It's a power.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a studio and he's recording, it's like you could probably hear him down the road.
Probably, yeah. I mean, they have, he wrote all the songs, and he had kind of like a lot of AC/DC riffs with his personality on top with the lyrics. They had a better rhythm section than most. The drummer was allowed to do some things, especially on this album, AJ Pero. But it was just a great heavy album. They have Like a Knife in the Back, Ride to Live. I love the song that starts side 2 when recordings had side 1 and side 2. We're Gonna Make It.
Yeah.
Which I liked.
That's a good one. I liked I Am, I'm Me. And of course, The Kids Are Back. That was actually used in one of the Jackass movies.
Oh, yeah?
In their credits or something. Jackass 3D, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never watched that Jackass stuff. So.
The funny thing with Twisted Sister is, like, even with this album sounding as powerful as it does, sometimes live, they'd pick up the speed a little bit. They'd play a little harder. And, like, The Kids Are Back is one of those songs that, if you hear it live, it's a little bit faster, a little bit punchier, and even better live than it is on the album. But I never saw them live. You said I had the records. I did definitely have these records before Stay Hungry. So I didn't discover them with Stay Hungry and then go back. I definitely had You Can't Stop Rock and Roll and was, waiting for Stay Hungry to come out. But I was never allowed to go see them because as big as they were in Long Island, most of the shows were at bars and we were 12 or 13 years old. But there was one show that I wanted to go to. And of all places, it was at a roller rink.
Uh-huh. I remember that.
And I asked my mother if I could go see them, and I think she knew of them. And maybe, my parents pretty much let me do whatever I wanted. But in this instance, I asked if I can go to a roller rink. It was called United Skates.
Clever.
It's a pun. United Skates roller rink in a town called Center Reach on Long Island. And I remember asking, and they said, no way. So when I think back to like 3 or 4 concerts I wasn't allowed to go to, they've kind of built up in my mind as like the golden opportunities I could have had to see early Twisted Sister. I did see them later on, but they were big. I mean, this roller rink probably had a couple thousand people in it that night. They even once played at a amusement park on Long Island.
Oh, Adventureland.
Adventureland, which is still around. This is way before our time. Mm-hmm. This is like when we were 9 or 10.
70s,
but
I think.
Yeah, I've since heard stories of it made like the local newspapers and news.
It was mobbed.
Yeah, that they had I don't know if it was free, but it was an all ages show at this amusement park that's still around actually, and. So, depending on where you read or who you listen to, 10,000, 15,000, or 20,000 people showed up. Regardless, it was way more people than they could handle. They had to close the road down, and Dee actually talks about it in his book.
And here's the thing about Twisted Sister and Dee. They really built their following, but they really got the crowd into it. Like, I heard a story, I don't know if it's true or if it's just a myth, but he used to, on stage, if people weren't getting into it, he would sometimes bring a chair out or have them all sit down in chairs and be like, well, if you're going to sit, why are we going to, run around?
Yeah.
Until everyone did that. And I think you were telling me that he used to berate the crowd if they weren't getting into it.
He was like an insult comic between songs. And even later on when I saw him, he had stage raps that were legendary. And he'd point out people in the crowd and ask them what their problem was and why are you not standing? You came out here to sit, And
the funny thing is, the people weren't really insulted. It kind of motivated them to get into it. Yeah. And they got into it and they ended up enjoying it. And he just made a new fan.
He was definitely an all-time frontman, Dee Snider. And the album did pretty well, I think. Yeah,
it actually became certified gold.
Certified gold.
With the RIAA.
RIAA. That's 500,000 copies.
Yeah, so that's better than our band did. So that's all right.
Unfortunately, no one buys physical copies of anything anymore. But
it's kind of sad.
In those days, that was a big deal to have 500,000 records sold, get a gold record. They had a video for You Can't Stop Rock and Roll. That was funny. They were driving around in a van, if you remember.
Oh, I do remember.
And at the end, they played, and they were so loud, some guy's ears started burning or something.
He had a toothpick in his mouth, right? He was driving.
Yeah, Dee was driving the van.
Oh, man, I forgot about that until just
showed them running down the street, running around the corner towards the van.
Yes.
Little Hard Day's Night-ish.
Definitely Long Island legend.
And we used to, when we used to practice with our band in middle school, we didn't like practice. We would get together and talk about this part and that part. We would actually make up set lists, if you remember.
Yeah.
And so if we were practicing at 4 o'clock after school, we'd run through our set list, which was for the imaginary show we were playing, I guess. And we used to always open with You Can't Stop Rock and Roll.
Every single time.
Every time.
What did it go right into with no break?
We both know exactly what it went into.
Breaking the Law.
Breaking the Law by Judas Priest.
Counted out with a cowbell and a snare.
This is later on. I had to buy a cowbell to play We're Not Going to Take It, probably. But yes, always into Breaking the Law. And can I tell you, for years after, decades after that, maybe even still to this day, when I hear You Can't Stop Rock and Roll and it ends, I imagine the 3 count on a cowbell, snare drum, into Breaking the Law.
That was exciting back then. That was our big thing, you know.
We melded those 2 songs together in my brain forever.
They're going to be talking about this on sometime in the future.
They sound like 2 songs that belong together. It's like when some songs you hear on the radio that they always played 2 songs back to back. Like what is those Zeppelin songs, Heartbreaker and Live and Love and Maid. They always play them back to back. It's almost like the Beatles at the end of Abbey Road when they have the medley of songs.
That's exactly what like we were like. Exactly like the Beatles.
Exactly like the Beatles. Beatles if they were playing metal from 1983. So that is You Can't Stop Rock and Roll. And one of the people who was an early advocate for Twisted Sister we mentioned was Pete Way. Have I mentioned Pete Way every episode?
I think so.
You think so? Well, Pete Way, I mentioned him a couple of episodes ago when I was asking Craig a trivia question about Pete Way being the first bass player in Ozzy's band when Jakey Lee joined. And I was actually wrong. And it's been killing me ever since.
Oh,
so now I'm going to correct myself. Pete Way was a bass player in Ozzy's band for the last month of Brad Gillis's time.
So you were close.
I was close. And then after that, Jake joined in January of 83. And do you know who the bass player was when Jake first was in Ozzy's band?
I don't know.
And I think most people don't, and I didn't know until I checked it, double-checked it, checked all my sources like the good metal journalist I am. It was a guy named Don Costa.
Oh. Okay. Never heard of him.
I don't know what he's doing now, but Don Costa was in Ozzy's band for the last 3 months or so of the Speak of the Devil tour. So I just had to correct myself.
That'd be a nice DJ name. Don Costa.
Don Costa. But this is relevant. I'm not totally off topic right now because when Pete Way was in Ozzy, he was also at that time starting a band with Fast Eddie Clarke from Motorhead.
He sure was.
He sure was. What was that band called?
Yes. It was called Fastway.
Fastway. It's like they're 2 names put together.
Yes. Pete Way and Fast and mind blown.
Mind blown. Fastway.
I actually didn't know that for years. I just thought it was a cool name.
Yeah. Well, the reason you probably didn't know it is that when Fastway's album comes out, Pete Way's nowhere to be found. So either because he joined Ozzy's band or because his record company wouldn't let him do something with another band, he was not able to record Fastway's first album, which also came out in April 1983. And when you look at the back of the album, the reason Craig might have been confused is on the back of the album, it says Fast Eddie Clarke guitar, Jerry Shirley drums, Dave King vocals. There's no bass player listed here.
That's really weird.
It is. So I remember thinking, like, where's the bass player? Like, I was so puzzled by the fact that this album did not give credit to a bass player.
And you could definitely hear bass on Say What You Will. I mean,
oh, yeah.
I mean, it's most of the song is just bass.
I don't know, maybe Fast Eddie Clarke played it, or would your research tell you anything?
No, I don't know. I know when I was looking it up, they had a session bassist called Mickey Feet. Don't know who that is either.
Yeah, I don't know who that is either. Then they had another guy on tour. They had a guy for the album, a guy for the video, a guy for the tour. So they didn't really have a bass player in those early days that was a consistent member of the band. But another album, I know I say this about a lot of albums, but another album that I liked.
I don't remember too much about it. I remember Say What You Will. A side note, another song we played on our massive set list. But I don't remember much of the other stuff. I don't know why. I remember the album cover, though.
Black and white checkerboard, right?
Yeah, way before Vans did it.
I'm saying right. Meanwhile, we're holding the album. The album is sitting right between us.
But that's what I remember.
Yeah. But a lot of good songs on here. We Become One, Another Day in Heft were like these sort of haunting ballads. Easy Living, You Got Me Running, Give It Some Action. And this was no just, fly-by-night project. This was actually a major label album on Columbia Records. The producer was Eddie Kramer, who, if you know Eddie Kramer, he's no slouch. He helped record a couple of Beatles songs up in Toronto before moving to New York to work with Hendrix. He engineered Zeppelin, produced a lot of 70s, most of the 70s Kiss albums. So they have a big record company behind them, a big producer working on the album with them. And it was a moderate success. It actually led them to go on tour with a lot of bands that year. Did you ever see Fastway live?
I don't think so. Did I?
Yes.
Was it with Rush?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like a year later. But in 83, they toured for like half of Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind album. And then they opened up for AC/DC's almost entire Flick of the Switch tour.
They're like one of those bands that just opens for everybody.
Yeah.
And they never quite made anything more of that.
No.
Like Y&T.
Yeah.
They were just constantly opening, and I don't know why some bands just don't cross that threshold. I mean,
Cross that arena threshold.
I don't know why.
I'm trying to think of maybe the reason I like this album so much is because I did see them twice, once opening for Maiden and once opening for AC/DC, and I wonder if I just thought that was like the stamp of approval that they must be cool and I need to buy the album. But I don't know, I still hear some of the songs, and I listened to it this week and I enjoyed it.
It's understandable. You see an opening band, and it kind of turns you on to them. Like we saw Iron Maiden on the Power Slave tour with at Radio City Music Hall, and a Queensryche opening, and I probably heard them on the radio or something, but after seeing them, I was just blown away, and I went and bought the record. It's like, I'm like, who are these guys? It was so different. It was just really cool.
Yeah.
And it worked, an opening band, and got me into them.
It worked out better for Queensryche than Fastway, I think. I think Queensryche got to another level that Fastway never really achieved, but
Kind of.
still a moment in hard rock, heavy metal history. Do you know what the singer from Fastway is doing now?
Puppet shows?
No.
I don't know.
If he was, he'd be headlining over Spinal Tap. Mm-hmm. He actually went on to found, and he's the singer and songwriter of a Irish rock band called Flogging Molly.
Really? I think I've heard that name, but I don't know anything about
They're
them.
like a Dropkick Murphys kind of band, and they are still around today. And I don't think he really likes talking about the Fastway portion, so I don't think he's going to come on our podcast.
That's weird. Why?
Well, if I invited him, I would want to talk about his Fastway.
Of course.
Can I tell you another just weird memory I have of Fastway?
Oh, God.
They have a song called All I Need Is Your Love. Uh-huh. And one of the times that I saw them, he was saying, all I want, I need is your love. But somebody was bouncing like a beach ball around the crowd, and it was very close to the stage. And he said, all I want, I need is that beach ball. And seconds later, a guy threw a full hot dog at him with mustard and sauerkraut.
Did he eat it?
No, it hit him right in the stomach, like in the
Why
pants.
would you throw a hot dog?
And I have no idea.
Especially
and
in a venue. It was probably like a $10 hot dog.
To be honest with you, I kind of didn't remember that. And then maybe 10 years after the concert, a friend of mine who was with me kept telling me that. And do you remember when that happened? I did remember it happening. I didn't remember the song or the circumstances. But now when I was listening to that song this week, I thought of that, of the singer in Fastway getting hit with a hot dog, mustard and sauerkraut
What I remember
at a concert.
Is that we had that friend who had like a shirt with no sleeves.
Yeah,
and it had
yeah.
the checkerboard pattern.
Yes.
And every time he wore it, we would say, oh, it's a Fastway shirt.
Yeah. And he would always say, it's not a Fastway shirt, but anything that was black and white checkerboard. And if you know what we're talking about, the Fastway album cover is, and their logo and everything was sort of like a checkered flag from a car race. So anytime someone wore that Vans kind of black and white print, we would say, that's a Fastway shirt.
Mm-hmm. He had red parachute pants on too, by the way.
So did we probably.
In case you're wondering. Get the image.
So Twisted Sister and Fastway, not a bad beginning to our discussion of the happenings in hard rock and heavy metal in April of 1983. All right, so what else we have for April 1983?
We have Savatage. You heard of them, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is their debut album, Sirens. They had an EP, but this is their debut. And I haven't listened to it in a long time. And so I had it on the other day, checking it out, and it was better than I remembered it. It was very different than a lot of the music out at the time. They say it kind of ushered in progressive in a way, not progressive in like like the Dream Theater type of way, but a lot of cool guitar riffs, and they had the bells going on some of the songs. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, Twisted Sister and Fastway had kind of the sort of basic chord structure, a little AC/DC kind of riffs, blues, in Fastway's case, blues solos. But this was definitely more forward.
Much different, yeah.
We're being very positive this episode, but I also found myself liking this more than I remembered.
Same here. Yeah. I remember Hall of the Mountain King. I mean, everyone knows that. It was kind of a ridiculous song to me. I don't know. With the
well, they got very theatrical.
Yeah.
Led them to greater success later on that we'll talk about down the road. But this was, like you said, they had an EP maybe. This was their debut album, though, Sirens. The title track, Sirens, I think opens the album. And it even sounded pretty good for the time period.
I think it really does.
Yeah.
And I read this, again, it's what I read. I can't vouch for it, but...
Vouch for it.
I'm going to vouch for this. Forget about it. It was, before they recorded this, they only prepared like a week in advance to record and everything. They didn't have money to really record it, so they did it in like one day or something like that. If I remember right.
It's funny is how many classic albums, were recorded in a week or 2 weeks. It's just, sometimes things are so overthought, and you spend years recording albums nowadays, and it's just...
That's why sometimes the old stuff sounds better. It's like it's more raw.
Spur of the moment takes.
Especially like the ultimate of that is got to be Van Halen.
Yeah.
They just kept almost everything, and some of it was like a little sloppy, but you know what? It was just, it was awesome.
I say record it quickly and keep the album under 45 minutes. When CDs got around, everything got bloated. They were spending a year to record an album, 16 songs. Give me Women and Children first. It's like 29 minutes long.
Too perfect, everything, has to be right on the beat. But it takes away from the soul, I think, the whole feel of it. But anyway, we digress.
Back to Savatage, who we're complimenting, actually. We're... not criticizing Savatage. The album sounds real good. You can think about the time period being early 83. They were a Florida band. They recorded the album in Florida. And actually, this studio became really, really popular and is still around today. It's called Morris Sound. The last name of the owners was Morris. And it became the go-to studio for death metal bands. Did you know Florida was a hotbed of death metal?
Florida was hot.
So it's a hotbed. Bands like Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, they all recorded at this studio. And so it was known for getting a good sound as of 83 and continued to get great sounds as bands moved forward, played harder, played faster. And that may have all started because Savatage recorded this album maybe like 2 years after the studio opened. But did you happen to look at the liner notes at all, like the descriptions of the bandmates?
No.
No?
No.
Instead of just putting vocals, guitar, bass, they had John Oliva, singer, famously. He was not just on vocals, he was also on Shrieks of Terror.
Oh.
Yes.
Where do you learn that?
And his brother John, rest in peace, John Oliva, he was not just on guitar, he was also on Metal Axe.
Metal Axe.
Bass player was the bottom end, and the drummer was playing Barbaric Cannons.
Where do you learn Shrieks of Terror? When I learned guitar, that wasn't available.
I don't know if there's a pedal for Shrieks of Terror or not, or you just have to make it naturally.
Well, it's for singing, so maybe I wouldn't know, but...
I would like some kind of vocal processor that had a Shrieks of Terror button myself.
Who wouldn't? I mean,
Who wouldn't?
Shrieks of Terror.
And just because I try to make silly connections between everything, did you know on this album, Sirens, they have a song called Twisted Little Sister?
Yeah. I didn't know until I re-listened to the album the other day.
Could that be a coincidence? Well, you think they heard that phrase because they heard there was this New York metal band called Twisted Sister?
Maybe it was a coincidence.
Maybe it was a coincidence. Well, you should give yourself 45 minutes and check out Savatage's debut album, Sirens, and try to make it all the way through to the track Twisted Little Sister because it's better than you may have remembered.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. I was pleasantly surprised. Like you said, they were forward-thinking. That's a great way to put it. Their guitar riffs, and it wasn't just your typical, like I'm going to say AC/DC style or Judas Priest or just chugging or whatever. It was there was some cool riffs and some, pretty nice stuff going on. Anyway, yeah.
Nice. So shout out, props up to Savatage.
Word up.
Word up. Next band came out with not their debut, but actually their third album is a band not from Florida, but from Canada. And this band has gotten a lot of press in the last decade or so because they're still around. They're either have 20 or 21 albums, depending on which ones you count. And this band is Anvil.
Oh, God. Anvil. They've been around forever.
Forever.
This is Forged in Fire, right?
Forged in Fire, like on an anvil.
Yeah. You forge metal.
Yeah.
So
actual metal.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Like the element of metal, not the music.
But it's all the same in this regard.
So for the band Anvil, I mean, they had a documentary. It's been pretty well repeated about how crazy their documentary from a decade or so ago is, that they're still plugging along. No knock against them, but they never really reached any level of successful, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm going to have to edit this out, but they never reached levels of success that they had hoped. They're kind of still at the bar level when it comes to touring. This was actually the album right after Metal on Metal. So I think we all know that song, Metal on Metal, the title track. And Forged in Fire, there's a title track, Forged in Fire also.
It's not bad. It's definitely 80s metal. Like when you listen to it, it brings you right back to listening to the local metal shop radio show or something.
Right.
Not bad, but it was 80s metal.
Yeah, their frontman, Steve Lips Kudlow, everyone knows him as Lips. He's the singer guitar player, and they're a trio now for like the last 20 years. But back then they were actually a 4-piece. They had 2 guitars, bass player and drummer, and the drummer Rob Reiner, interesting name for him. He's still around as well. So Lips and Rob.
It is not to interrupt. It is interesting you say Rob Reiner because they have been compared to Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
So
you wonder if he knew the name of the drummer and researched the band as inspiration.
Right. You get back to your story now.
No, I don't know if I had a story, but it is funny how many bands want to be credited with influencing Spinal Tap. They're supposed to be embarrassed by it, but if you hear Black Sabbath or Aerosmith at the time, so many bands want to say, "Oh, that's based on us. That was based on us back then."
It's not really a good thing.
No, it's not. But this again was Anvil's third album, so they were still on a major label, and they had a big-time producer also. And I'm going to mispronounce this guy's last name. I recognized his last name from other albums. Craig and I grew up with a great friend who was Greek, but I'm going to mess up this Greek producer's last name. His name is Chris Tsangarides. Tsangarides? Does that sound Greek to you?
Sure.
Am I pronouncing it like it sounds Greek? But anyway, he was a well-known producer who produced Thin Lizzy's album, Thunder and Lightning, that we just talked about last episode. And then he went on to produce Judas Priest's Painkiller and Bruce Dickinson's solo album, Tattooed Millionaire. So they had some weight behind them as far as a record label and the producer, but it really just didn't take off for them.
Yeah, they couldn't just pull it off for some reason. It's like we were saying before, what makes some bands just skyrocket and some just kind of plateau? There's no rhyme or reason.
Some of it's rotten luck, rotten management, rotten record company, and sometimes the songs just aren't good enough,
Yes. I have to be honest. I never gave Anvil much of a chance just from the photos of them. It sounds terrible, but the singer, he's just ridiculous. It's so goofy. He's always making these stupid faces. It's kind of turns me off.
Yeah, and again, we have no explicit content in this. I actually clicked a button saying that we didn't, but he used to play his guitar solo. He used to use a bedroom instrument on his guitar solos. Oh. So I remember thinking that was ridiculous.
Just every picture, he's making this dumb face. It doesn't really instill seriousness.
I don't think we're going to get Lips on this podcast either anytime soon. But if you want to hear what metal sounded like in 1983, you might want to check out Anvil's Forged in Fire or any of their other 20 albums to hear what Anvil sounds like. No offense.
No, we're not. We're just. It's good old fashioned ribbing because I mean, as we're saying, they were good at what they did. They still are good at what they do. It's straight up rock and roll. It's
Hey,
you know.
they made 20 albums, more than I've ever made. So, and they're still playing and still touring. So, if that's what they want to do, you only have one life. Go for it, Anvil.
And you know what they did do?
What?
They were on the Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien.
They were?
October 2009.
That was probably when the documentary came out.
So
Do you know if Conan paid him in goulash?
I don't know.
That's from the documentary, if you don't know, that they argue with a bar owner somewhere in Europe, and the joke is made that they're going to get paid in goulash.
So you know they were on Conan.
Hey, if only we could be on Conan and get paid in goulash for this podcast.
I get paid in SpaghettiOs. I could be on Conan.
Hey, that's better than goulash. All right, so what's goulash from? Is it from a specific country in Europe?
It's a Hungarian.
Hungarian?
They always said Hungarian goulash, but
Hungarian goulash?
don't quote me on that.
I won't quote you, but it doesn't sound like it's goulash would be from Switzerland, though.
No, I don't think so. No.
You know what is from Switzerland?
Is it like a flower?
A flower and a band.
Oh,
That go by the same name.
Krokus.
Krokus. You don't hear of too many heavy metal bands from Switzerland, but their soul metal band from Switzerland released a big album for them in April of 1983. And yes, we're talking about Krokus.
With Headhunter.
Headhunter.
Yeah, that Krokus was actually a really good band.
Yeah.
They're another one who never broke into superstardom, but they were pretty big.
Yeah, they had a couple of gold albums. This is actually their 7th album. I think some of those were Switzerland-only releases. But in the 80s, this is at least their 3rd or 4th album that was released in America. And they were touring, opening up for headlining acts going back to like 81. Opening up for Sammy Hagar, opening up for Def Leppard, opening up for Judas Priest. So they seem to be over here a lot. And this album has probably, I don't know if it's technically sales-wise their biggest song, but I think it's their best song.
Screaming in the Night.
Screaming in the Night.
It's a good song.
It sounds so much unlike everything else that they did that it almost like it stands out as being a song that maybe they really focused on producing, creating their own sound. Because a lot of their other stuff just sounds like AC/DC to me.
Well, that was part of their thing. They actually they saw AC/DC playing in concert, and they were like, we have to sound like this. And so they tried to move in that direction, and they were ultimately became known as AC/DC impersonators or whatever. But it didn't stop them. I mean, they just kept getting more and more popular.
Right. Well, not a bad band to choose to copy,
No.
but
and that's actually why they got the new singer Mark Storace. Because apparently the other guy couldn't handle what AC/DC was doing with those high vocals and everything.
Yeah, I had the album before this one. It was called One Vice at a Time. It had a cover of American Woman. Who did American Woman? I don't even know.
The Guess Who.
The Guess Who, right. And the Guess Who and Bachman Turner Overdrive are connected. So they did a Bachman Turner Overdrive cover on this Headhunter album called Stayed Awake All Night. But this album actually has songs like the title track Headhunter. We mentioned Screaming in the Night. It's got a song called Eat the Rich that got some
I
airplay.
forgot that one.
I know of at least 3 other songs called Eat the Rich. Like Motorhead had one, Aerosmith had one, Krokus. But this album actually went to 25 on the Billboard album charts. That's a pretty
good.
surprising number that when I saw it. And the album went gold, and they recorded it in Florida at a studio that Judas Priest had used for the Scream of Vengeance album. And I think they used the same producer.
Yeah, they did, and they actually had Rob Halford singing background vocals on one of the songs.
Oh, yeah?
I forget which one. Riding something.
Ready to Burn.
I think that's it. Yeah.
I think it's Ready to Burn. Or is that just the only other song title I know? I don't know.
Yeah, it was Ready to Burn. I just had to look it up.
But Krokus, one of these bands you go back, I can't say I enjoyed listening to this album as much as maybe the Twisted Sister, Fastway, or Savatage, but it was not bad, you know. And like I said, I love the Screaming in the Night song, although I did kind of give up on them, the album before this, because I thought they were just too much of an AC/DC ripoff.
Long Stick Goes Boom.
That's right. Long Stick Goes Boom. I think that's the opening song. But Krokus, you know, goes on, gets a little more hair metal, and we'll probably talk about their other albums down the road. But that is Krokus.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other thing I could think of from April 1983 is not an album, not a tour. It's just it was a month, and they even had the date. I think they say April 11th, where Metallica had an important moment in their history.
Yeah, they did some weeding. That sounds terrible.
Some weeding out.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said it that way, but that's when they got rid of Dave Mustaine.
Yes.
You know, the original guitar player.
So, yeah, after getting Cliff Burton on bass, moving to the Bay Area, and then they travel across the country to come to the New York area because they had interest from Megaforce Records, which was based in New Jersey. After getting here, they pretty much immediately tell Dave Mustaine, "You're out." Famously give him a bus ticket to take a Greyhound back across the country 3,000 miles.
Like a 4-day trip.
And so you can imagine what he was thinking, what they were thinking. And actually, you kind of don't have to imagine because they all still talk about it to this day.
Yeah, that guy, he's still so bitter.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, he was like, if Metallica was 1, Megadeth was number 2.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't enough.
He said he writes great riffs, and if you ask him, he'll tell you that he wrote all the good ones on Kill 'Em All and a couple on Ride the Lightning. But he went out on his own. He's had 37 different band members in Megadeth, but he built himself a nice little empire too. But
he sure did, and it's like you don't see the cup half full type of guy.
Yeah.
You know, sure Metallica's massive, but Megadeth is pretty massive in itself. They got a lot of great albums, a lot of great songs, the great players in the band. So,
yeah. And he writes great riffs, man. You know, Dave Mustaine. But you know, going now 43 years back when they were all 20, and now they're in their mid 60s, and they still revisit this moment where in April of 1983 they sent Dave Mustaine on a Greyhound one way to California and flew in Kirk Hammett, formerly of Exodus, to come to the New York area, do some shows, and then start recording Kill 'Em All upstate.
And that would change everything.
And that we'll talk about when it comes out later in 1983. But that was a pretty good one.
Yes, it was.
Pretty good month, right?
Yeah. And you know what I like about this is that some of these albums that came out, I don't remember as much, or I never really gave a chance to. Like we were talking with Thin Lizzy or Savatage or whatever. And, you know, I go back and listen, and it's kind of like, oh, wow, okay, this is kind of cool. And it gets my interest in it. Maybe I'll put it on my list on Apple Music or something.
There you go. Yeah, actually, we're going to start doing on Spotify and maybe some other platforms is every episode we're going to have a playlist. So if you go to Spotify and go to the 80s Metal Hang, you'll see episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we'll have songs up on the playlist that we mention in the show. So if you want to just kind of see what we're talking about with these songs, you could easily find them on the 80s Metal Hang on Spotify. You could also contact us at the 80s Metal Hang at Gmail. When I say 80s, it's the 80s Metal Hang at Gmail.
And also on Instagram, we're posting some images from what we're talking about as well. If you want to see like the Phil Lynott statue or the Fastway album cover, the Saxon album cover.
A picture of Anvil on Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, that too, or whatever else.
We'll send our big staff, our behind-the-scenes staff, to curate as many images as they can from each episode's references, and that'll be on Instagram at the 80s Metal Hang also.
Yep, I'm going to get in touch with Conan's guys and see if they could send me that footage.
All right, so I think that's pretty good for this week. I'm going to go have some goulash.
I'm not.
Okay.
Not even Hungarian goulash.
All right. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Have a good one, guys.